Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to JPTV. I am very excited about this video this morning. I have only filmed a couple of Mystery Monday videos. I started a few months back, and then I thought I was planning on continuing to do that, but it just hadn't panned out that way. So I'm venturing my way back to that again. And so today I'm going to be talking about a case that has fascinated me for quite some time. It is now solved. For the longest time it had gone unsolved, and the whole time it was unsolved, I would think about it all the time. Like, that's how fascinated I was by the case. And I think it was really because whenever someone goes missing or a family goes missing, it's just it's a mystery, and it's like intriguing, and when you don't have the answers, it just kind of haunts you and stays with you. So today we're going to be talking about the Mcstay family, who disappeared in 2010 in California. And I think that might be another reason why the case fascinated me, because I live here in California. I'm familiar with, where they lived in the area. And so, yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this case. So just like in the past, everything I'm using, I'll go ahead and put in the description box so that, if you like any of my stuff that I'm using, you can go there and purchase any of it. So, all right, so the Mcstay family. So I first heard about this case in, I think it was like 2011, because they went missing in 2010. I watched a show called Disappeared on the ID channel. And if you guys have ever watched it, it is fascinating. The only thing about that show that really drives me nuts is that, these are people that are missing and you really get no closure. And so after watching this particular case, and I've seen every single episode of that show, and there's hundreds and hundreds of episodes, this one seemed to really hit a nerve with me. Again, I'm not sure why. I think it was mostly just because they were local, and it just seemed to me crazy how a family of 4 just disappears into thin air. Like, that's truly what it seemed like. It just seemed like they were here one day and gone the next, and there was like really no explanation. So yeah, so let's go ahead and jump on in. So the Mcstay family was a family of 4 that actually lived in Fallbrook, California at the time of their disappearance. The family was Joseph Mcstay and his wife, Summer Mcstay, and their 2 children, Joseph Jr., who was 2 years old, or 3 years old, and Gianni, who was age 4. And one day at night, they're hanging out at home, watching, some TV, eating some popcorn, and they just vanish into thin air. Okay, so now before I kind of jump into the logistics of the case, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about each one of them and just kind of give you a little bit of their backstory, because I love it when people do that when they're telling these stories, because I feel like it really helps to understand the person, and you get a little bit more invested in the case when you know a little bit about the people. So Joseph Mcstay was born on November 20th, 1969 in Ohio, and he was born to Patrick Mcstay and Susan Blake. And not much is really known about his early life, actually. I tried to do some research on it, and honestly, I don't know if it's just the family just doesn't want information to be out, but there just really wasn't much. But what I was able to see is that, his parents had divorced at some time. I don't know if he was young or he was older, but he had a really great relationship with his dad, Patrick. Patrick was like his best friend. They spoke daily. And so when they went missing, his dad just like knew something was very, very wrong. And so Joseph and Summer, actually, there's not much known about them either. Like, as I did research on them, like I couldn't even find out like when they got married, how long they were together. But I do know at least by the year 2007, they were married, living in San Diego, and they actually in, I think it was 2008 or 9, they bought a home in Fallbrook, which was their dream, to buy a home. Joseph Mcstay was just a very nice man. Like, people described him as just very friendly, warm, giving. Like, he would, take the shirt off his back to give to someone else. Like, he really, really cared about his friends and his family. And he had a dream. He had a dream to be an entrepreneur, and he was very vocal with his dad about that. Because, like I mentioned before, him and his dad were really, really close friends. I mean, they were, connected at the hip. They were always talking. And so his dad knew about his dream. And so one day, Mr. Mcstay was working in a gift shop. And as time went on, he started realizing, like, wait a minute, why am I running this gift shop for someone else when I can have my own business? So he calls up his father, Patrick, one day and says, hey, Dad, I'm selling these fountains here at this thrift shop, and I know that or gift shop, and I know that I could do this myself, and I could probably make, more money and do a better job at it. And so his dad was like, yeah, why not? Go for it. Like, how much do you think it would, cost you to make the fountain, and how much are they selling them for at this gift shop? And he says, I can make it for about $20, and they're selling them for $200. And so he knew at that point, like, that was something that he wanted to do. So that day began his quest to start his own business in his garage. And this company was called Earth Inspired Products. And it was an e-commerce company. And what that means is that it was all online. It was an online business that he had started up in his garage. All right, so now let's talk about his wife, Summer. So Summer Mcstay, again, as I was doing research on her, not a lot of information came up about her early life, which just really surprised me, because I know that, I follow a lot of other people that, do these types of videos, and they seem to find out information. So I don't know if, they pay for some sort of, encyclopedia or something like that will give them the information. But I definitely haven't been able to figure that out. So anyway, Summer actually was born in 1966, December of 27th in Los Angeles. So she was from California. And like I mentioned before, he was from Ohio. And I think, and I'm not sure if it was Ohio specifically, but I do know his dad didn't live close by. I know his dad lived in another state. And so Summer actually changed her name. She was not born Summer. She was actually born Lisa Aranda, and then she changed her name to Lisa Martelli, and then Lisa Miranda Artelli. And in an earlier video that she did, earlier in her life, she, talked about, changing her name, but really didn't talk about why. And her mom definitely confirmed that she changed her name. So, there's really no, clear reason. I mean, honestly, the family's not going to disclose if there was any, issues, any abuse or anything like that, would be my guess. I mean, I couldn't imagine they'd want to talk about that. So, like I mentioned earlier, I'm not sure when they got married, but they did get married, and they had 2 little boys. And like I mentioned, in 2009, they moved to Fallbrook, California. Fallbrook is a suburb of San Diego, about, I would say, maybe 25 to 30 miles, northeast of San Diego. A beautiful city. I love Fallbrook. It's kind of like, if you know anything about Southern California, there's a city called Temecula that is really nice too, but it's out in the middle of nowhere, and Fallbrook is just past Temecula on your way to San Diego. So business was going well. By 2010, Joseph's business was taking off. His wife, although she was a licensed real estate agent, she stayed home with the kids. And just so you guys know what I'm doing is I'm going to be putting lashes on. And so I have to let this dry in between before I put the lashes on. So, you know, they were doing well. You know, life was happy. You know, their kids were doing well. And just like things seemed to be just going just great in their family life. And then on February 4th, 2010, everything changed for this family. And that is the tragedy that we are going to be talking about today. So next, I want to talk about a guy by the name of Chase Merritt. So Chase Merritt was a seasoned welder, and him and Joseph met because he had a manufacturer that he was working with for his fountains, and he was introduced to Chase because Chase was a manufacturer as well, and so he would do like parts to them. And so Joseph started working with him to, you know, order some of his parts from them, and they became fast friends. Like, you know, Joseph described him as just the friendliest guy. He even told his dad, like, you've got to meet Chase. Like, he is just a stand-up guy. He's helped me with my business. And then they actually became partners. So on the day that the family went missing, it was a normal day. Joseph was working in his office, you know, handling customer orders and handling business. And his wife was taking care of the kids. You know, they were just kind of hanging out. Well, around, I think it was about 8:30 that evening, that was the last known call that he would ever make, and that was with his business partner, Chase. No one really knows what that call was about. There's speculations. Chase says he didn't answer the call, that him and his wife were watching a movie and that he ignored the call. But being that the records show that the call lasted at least a minute to 2 minutes, later the police really weren't buying that. So next I want to introduce you to someone by the name of Gina Watson. So Gina Watson was a salesperson for a manufacturer of, a manufacturer of fountains as well in Florida. And she and, oh my gosh, look at this. She and Joseph also became really good friends. He would buy, of course, parts from her as well. And she would communicate with him daily. And just like with Chase, and this just really shows you what type of a guy that Joseph was. Like, he built friendships so easy. People loved him, and people just wanted to like do business with him. And being in the staffing business, I'm just fixing my eye because it got messed up. And you know what? I'm going to zoom in a little bit because I feel like I really want you guys to kind of see what's going on here. Okay, so being in the staffing business, I really see how important it is to have great relationships with your vendors. And I also see how the higher up you get in an organization, the nicer the people. Like, when you start talking to the CEO and business owners, they're just the nicest people. And that's what Joseph was. And him and Gina had built a great friendship. And so that's a little bit about Gina. You know, when the family went missing, Gina and his dad, Patrick, I mean, they knew something was wrong. Like, this is not right. You know, he calls us every day. Gina had been emailing him about some, you know, business, you know, deals that were kind of going on, and they were getting like no response from them. So when he stopped communicating with customers and taking those calls, she automatically knew something was wrong. And, you know, Patrick's dad, like I mentioned, they were really close. So the same thing. So he told his son, so Joseph had a brother, and his name was Michael. And he had told Michael to go check on Joseph. So he called up Michael and he said, look, I haven't heard from him in, you know, so many days. Gina's concerned he's not responding to customers or emails. Please go check on your brother. So on February 13th, Michael traveled to his brother's house in Fallbrook, And when he got there, oh my gosh, sorry you guys. I think I'm gonna have to put more magnetic liner on. Okay, so upon finding the back window open, and actually the dogs were in the backyard and they were barking up a storm. They had no water and no food. And again, he thought that was odd because he's like, they would never not take care of their dogs. I think I'm gonna need more on this one too. And so there was a window open, so he goes ahead and he climbs in the window and he notices nothing, you know, nothing's weird, nothing's missing. There was a carton of eggs on the counter and some popcorn on the couch, like just kind of spilled over as if like they were watching a movie maybe, and then they just completely vanished. So what ended up happening was he did contact the police department, but they were just like, you know what, it's a family. They could have just like decided to leave themselves. And so like the police just weren't ready to, you know, allow them to file a missing persons report. So about 2 days pass, and then on February 15th, Michael actually phoned the sheriff's department and reported that they were missing, and so did an official report. So officers arrived to the home, okay, and here's the crazy thing. They honestly didn't secure the crime scene. Like, they didn't treat it as a crime scene. Again, they're in their mind, they're thinking, oh, this family probably just disappeared. And so they didn't close off the crime scene for 4 days, you guys. And, you know, it was as if the family just vanished into thin air. And I just have to say, I cannot even believe the police work that was done on this case. You know, because after they left the Mcstay home and not, you know, closing it off, it left those days for anybody that was maybe involved in the crime to come in and contaminate the crime scene. Still evidence. And let me just tell you, that's exactly what happens, and we'll kind of get to that in just a little bit. So this is what is really crazy, is when I watched the documentary on the ID channel, they had eventually, you know, as obviously the police were researching this case, you know, they found footage of the family. Well, they thought it was the family, and it showed this on the documentary on the ID channel. This is what like really got me going, and you know, feeling like, wow, what a crazy thing, and you know, just wanting to know what happened to them. So they had this surveillance video of a family walking across the border of Mexico. That, I mean, it was very like blurry. Like, you could not tell. I don't know why they thought specifically this was the family. My guess would be that they actually found, on February 8th, they found the family's trooper. It had been towed from a strip mall very close to the border. So it was believed to have been parked there between 5:30 and 7 the evening that they found it, which was February 8th. And the car's location from February 4th, from the day they went missing all the way to the 8th, is really unknown. Like, they don't know, but from what they could tell, it had just barely been left there from video surveillance. So that's when they started looking at, if the car was left near the border, maybe we should start looking at like anybody walking and crossing over the border. And that's how they discovered the video of this family that they believed was them. So at this point, you know, the police were just like convinced, okay, this family just decided to go to Mexico. Like, they crossed the border and they are leaving voluntarily. And so really how they came to that conclusion, besides the fact that, you know, the car was left near there and they felt like they saw, you know, this family crossing the border, was that when they did finally go search the home, they found on the Mcstay's computer that there were searches of how to get passports for children, what documents do children need for traveling to Mexico. There was like introduction to Spanish lessons, things like that. Okay, so now we're going to venture back to what I said earlier about the police not securing the home. So at this point, that was the first red flag when they when they realized like this family was looking, you know, supposedly, you know, about, you know, passports and things like that. But because the house was left unsecured, later they went on to believe that someone had come into the home and actually wanted to make it look like the family did the searches, but they did the searches themselves, which is crazy to me. I just feel like, and plus whatever evidence there could have been in the house, they never found any evidence later of anything. So after they saw that video, they really, you know, started searching around. There was, you know, obviously they told people, you know, if you see this family, if you know anything, please contact the San Diego police. And so all of these people started calling, and, you know, tips rushing in of sightings of them, but they were like unconfirmed sightings. So the family of the Mcsta, so once the police were like kind of convinced, because there were supposedly sightings, the family was like, you know what, no, we're not convinced. And the sister even stated that Summer's passport was expired, so she's like, there's no way that she could have, like, they could get into Mexico, but they wouldn't be able to get back into the US. And so you know, at that point, I think everybody just kind of realized, okay, that's probably not what happened. They probably didn't go to Mexico. So truly the case really, really goes cold. The police don't know what's going on. They just decide to kind of like, I'm not going to say they put a halt on it, because I don't know what, you know, the police work looks like or what they do. But honestly, the family just felt like it just really wasn't going anywhere anymore. And so Gina Watson, who we talked about earlier, and Joseph's dad, Patrick, decided to kind of not take things in their own hands per se, but they just decided to start like doing their own investigating and looking into things. And so, you know, Gina was, so I'm going to tell you, you know, just a little bit more about Gina. So she was a friend and business associate of Joseph, and she had suspicions that Chase may have had something to do with it, Chase Merritt. And the reason why is because just, you know, over the course of a few weeks before the family disappeared, she started getting a lot of complaints about Joseph's products. And, you know, Joseph got his products from Chase. And so customers were complaining, saying the products were defective. And, you know, what she started to see is that after doing more research on this guy, that he was using very, very cheap products because he was in some major debt, you know, and because of that, the business was really struggling. And, you know, I want to kind of go back to Joseph's character and talk a little bit about that, because he just was so trusting. Like, he really trusted the people that were in his life, you know, really cared about him, and he trusted Chase as his business partner. And so he was letting Chase borrow a lot of money. So like Chase would say, hey, can you upfront me the money for product that I'm going to give you later, and then I'll pay it back to you at another point. I mean, just shady stuff like that. And so you know, Gina was just really feeling like something is really off with this guy. And the more she looked into it, the more that she found, sorry guys, let me grab something down here, you know, found of different things that he was doing to just really rip off Joseph. And so she talks to Joseph's dad and just kind of lets him know their suspicions. And they talk to the police about him. And quite frankly, you know, he was kind of on the police's radar because he was the last person to actually talk to Joseph or, you know, call. So it was speculated that maybe Chase and Joseph on that call at night were talking about, you know, the business and everything that was going wrong, and that maybe Joseph confronted him. So that's kind of what they're thinking right now. And when Chase was interviewed later after the disappearance by CNN, he actually told them that him and Joseph had met up that day for a business meeting at a Chick-fil-A in Rancho Cucamonga. And what's crazy about that is I actually live right by Rancho Cucamonga, and I know that Chick-fil-A. I go there all the time. So again, hence why this story I think really just fascinated me, and why I wanted to know more about it. So they had met that day to talk about, you know, business. Chase said that it was a you know, a good meeting, that there wasn't anything, you know, bad about it. Of course, he's going to say that, right? You know, because he doesn't want to look guilty. But he said in that documentary, like, I'm almost positive I was the last one to see Joseph alive. And he admitted that. So when the police questioned him, he actually passed a polygraph. And so they just kind of like stopped really looking into him. And then the case went cold for another 4 years, you guys. And this is the time where from 2010 to, 3 years, sorry, not 4 years. From 2010 to 2013, when I saw the actual documentary on the ID channel and got fascinated with the case. And, you know, it just kind of stuck with me. I would think about it all the time. So when the news broke in 2013, I was floored. I was like, oh my God, that's the family that I saw on the ID channel. It was all over the news. So basically what happened is on November 11th in 2013, a motorcyclist that was out, you know, just having a good old time, you know, riding his motorcycle, actually stumbled across actually he came across all of the graves, but the first that he found was 2 skulls of adults, which later was confirmed to be, it makes me so emotional, Joseph and Summer. And then off to the side was the shallow graves of their 2 little boys. And I just think, like, how in the world can someone, I don't know how you kill anybody, but kill 2 little boys, a 4-year-old and a 3-year-old. Like, if you're gonna kill the parents, I mean, again, I'm not saying that that's a great idea, but if you're going to, like, why are you gonna kill their kids? Like, they are innocent children. So anyways, this motorcyclist stumbles across the bodies. He calls, you know, the police, and this actually was in Victorville, California. So now I want to kind of like camp on that for a minute. Victorville is about 200 miles from Fallbrook, which is crazy. It might even be more than that. So after, you know, they did more research on the bodies and they found out it was the Mcstay family, they, you know, went on the news and said, basically, we found these bodies, and they said it was a homicide. They said that the families were killed by blunt force trauma to the head, and that they actually think it was a sledgehammer, which is crazy. You know, so when he called the police just thought, you're like, this is odd. Like, why would their bodies be found like off this beaten road, like 200 miles away from their home? Like, it just really didn't make sense. And so obviously the investigation starts, but they really don't know where to go with it at this point. And this is where it just shows that you can't commit murder and not get discovered. Like, it always it doesn't always come out. There are people that get away with it, but you know, a lot of times, like, you're just not going to get away with it. Like, why in the world do you think that you're going to? So anyways, I just have to say that. And I also have to say, you know, this case really reminds me of the Selena case. You know, for those of you that have seen the movie Selena, just, you know, being killed by someone that she knows, you know, that she trusted. It just kind of gives me that vibe. All right, so now I'm going to introduce a new person to you guys, and his name is Jerry Smith. Now, he wanted to remain anonymous, so that's actually not really his name. That is just the name he asked us, or not asked us, but asked them to use. And he actually met Chase Merritt. He was a recreational gold prospector, and he met Chase in August of 2014. And ironic how he ended up meeting Chase. He ended up meeting Chase because he had a part to his machine that had malfunctioned. So when he called the company that he bought it from, they referred him back to the manufacturer, which was Chase Merritt. So they built a friendship, but again, this wasn't over a long time span. We're talking like maybe like 7 to 8 weeks. And they, you know, became friends, and they started gold prospecting together. Sorry guys, my camera just like stopped. That was really weird. Anyways, they went with their wives gold mining a couple of times, and so, you know, that's how he built a relationship with Chase. So I guess one day they decide to go gold mining, and they go to the exact path of where the Mcstay family was found. Okay, and this is in Victorville. And Jerry says that they were just walking through, and all of a sudden Chase just stops and says, do you know who I am? And he was like, well, not really, because we've really only known each other like about 6 or 7 weeks. And he tells him, do you know who the Mcstay family is? Have you heard of them? And Jerry remembered, oh yeah, I saw something about them on the news. And then at that point, Chase proceeds to tell him that he was a friend of the family, that Joseph was his best friend. And he starts really talking bad about Summer, saying like, oh, but his wife was a nightmare. You know, she was an F&B. I mean, he just really went on and on about this family. And he was like, you know, he was so cold. He goes, I didn't feel like he was talking about a family that he loved, that were his friends. He's like, and so I right away, red flags came up, and I thought, you know, I don't know this guy very well. He's opening up to me about this. This is a ongoing case. And so he contacts the San Bernardino Police Department. And then on November 5th, 2014, the detectives from the San Bernardino Police Department arrested Merritt in the connection with the deaths of the Mcstay family. After, this is what's crazy. So this guy, you know, tells them this, and so they start, you know, get a warrant to look, you know, at Chase's place, his car, and they found some of the Mcstay family's DNA in his car. So his arrest was announced in 2014, and he was charged with 4 counts of murder, and they sought the death penalty. Okay, so you don't hear very often anymore people getting the death penalty. And so, you know, to hear that he might possibly get it was just crazy. So after the, you know, he gets arrested, the case goes to trial, and prosecutors allege at this point, because they're trying to figure out, okay, what's the motive, right? They have to prove a motive. So they thought maybe Merritt had a gambling problem and killed the family for financial gain, because he, you know, was a partner with Joseph in his business. So they were saying that that he actually wrote checks totaling over more than $21,000 from the business account in the days after the family was killed. And then he went on a gambling spree nearby. And the reason why they found out later the bodies were buried up in the Mojave Desert was because he was familiar with the area. His sister lived up there, and the bodies were found about 5 miles from his sister's home. So he's very familiar with the area. So in January of 2018, the trial conference was scheduled for February 23rd. And, you know, they pulled all the business records because they really wanted to like have a strong case, you know, so they could show like this guy just basically ripped Joseph off and owed him so much money. And get this, Chase Merritt actually had 2 past convictions from years prior. He actually stole from products from a company in San Gabriel that sold like metal, sheet metal products to him. He actually stole from that company, which is crazy. So on 2019, he was found guilty of murdering the Mcstay family, and on June 24th, he was sentenced to death. And I feel so emotional because I don't know, I just feel like it's so sad when you hear stories of like this, when they're people that you trust. Joseph trusted Chase so much. And remember earlier when I talked about it, really reminds me of the case of Selena. It was the same thing. It was like her manager like killed her. And it's just crazy. Like, and to kill their children, like, it's just heartbreaking. And this story is so sad. And again, I think it will remain with me for the rest of my life, just because, I don't know, like I said, it just was one that really tugged on me. And once it was solved, I was so relieved, because again, there's those stories where you hear and there's just no resolution and you just are left wondering. And now this family doesn't have to wonder what happened anymore. Patrick, you know, Summer's family, Joseph's family, Gina, all his friends, his brother, you know, they can, you know, sleep tonight knowing that the person that took away their family is in jail and he's gonna die. He's actually, I think if I remember correctly, it's 2035 when he's supposed to be executed. So we'll see. We know how that goes, right? But yeah, that's it for this case, you guys. I hope you really enjoyed this. If you have any more things that you know about this case that I maybe left out, go ahead and put it in the comments below. And if you are new here and you've never subscribed to my channel, I hope you will. I'm going to be doing these videos every Monday, and then on Fridays I actually do reaction videos to some different paranormal channels that I watch. And so if you're interested in the paranormal, you can check those out. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate you coming, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.